And now I should be live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Awesome. So, good morning to everybody. I'm trying to get a few more things set up here, a few more things I want to show you. But welcome to my live launch of two minty wings, or too many. So, I'm going to get right into it. I see, hey, what's up? It's Paul. I see some people coming on. So, I'm going to jump right into what we're doing right now because I got a lot of goodies for you. And I want to be sure that you get them before you go. All right. So let me get this going here. Yeah. So I'm super excited about this book. I'm super excited about this series. I can't make you understand, but I'm going to try to make you understand exactly why I'm so excited and so proud of this whole series that I got going on. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, so here we go. So we're going to deal with three things during this live broadcast. We're going to deal with what, we're going to deal with how, we're going to deal with why, and then if you hang on with me to the end, I got a little special something I'm going to show you. Okay? So first of all, we're going to start with what. Now let me look over here and be sure you can see me okay. I want to make sure everybody can see me okay. I want to make sure you can see the book too. Okay, good. Because many times, because I got a background, the book disappears. So I want to be sure so I know you all can see that on Instagram. That's not a problem. So, right. Okay. So first of all, we're going to deal with what? What is this? What is this book? Okay. This book is an interlude. This book is an interlude book. And what that means is that it's a bridge between the first novel and everything that happens next. It's a bridge, okay? It's an interlude to the next full-length novel. But pay attention, it's important to the canon. Why is it important to the canon? Because there are many significant things that are revealed, okay? Many significant things that are revealed in this book. So it's not, I didn't set up a situation where it's like, you can skip. Okay, there I am. I just want to be sure I was coming through on Twitter. It's not where you can skip this and understand what's going on. You've got to read this book because there's a lot of things that happen in it. Okay, it pays off some of the things that you discover in the first book, and it sets up what happens next. Okay, now you have to read the first book to get it. Okay, you have to read the first full-length novel to understand this one because it's not going to make sense to you if you don't. It's not going to make sense to what you're doing if you don't read this first novel. You got to read the first novel, and then the interlude book will make sense to you. So you get this one, you got to get this one, then you read this one. Okay, so this one first, and then this one. And like I said, there is much payoff. There's much payoff, and there's much setup. And so you got to get that to understand what's going on there in the book, both with the interlude and all the details of what happened in the novel. Because when I write with a lot of detail. I write with an extreme amount of detail. So you got to pay attention to the details to make sure it all makes sense to you so you can put all the threads together in your head. Okay? All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read a passage from this book, from the interlude book. That's the book that's dropping today. I'm going to read a passage from that book to you right now. Okay? So now I'm going to avoid spoilers, which means, let me see. Oh, Lord. Okay, so I have to skip the prologue because because the prologue is I can't say it. If I say it, it'll be a spoiler. So I'm skipping the prologue, saying that. Okay. Okay. So where am I going to read from you? I'm going to read from. I'm going to start with chapter 0 because that's the only place I can start that's not full of spoilers. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. So I'm reading chapter 0 that's entitled Crystal Faces. Okay. 1144 Primordial. That's the timestamp. Southeast Rooms, level 3, the South Armory. Here we go. There is no time for ye old stupid questions, the voice emerged from one of the armored figures as they traded blows in quick succession. I said, where is the training? The other one replied with a quick response, triggering the first into a natural, almost grace-based defense stance. Have at thee then, ye brutish lout, replied again the first figure with another quick strike. The two were exchanging words as their unearthly swords clashed with each other in a beautiful yet dangerous dance. I say thee nay, thou foul contender. The second figure let his sword slide slightly edge to edge with his opponent facing him in an offensive glare. The two swords made of fire and lightning made a surprisingly beautiful sound as they moved slowly from each other. Suddenly, the clash came again as the first contending figure attacked fiercely. Thou shalt not vanquish me with yon lightning, thou broccoli-breathed worm, yelled the first figure with a note of irony in his silky voice. Ithador blinked when he realized that in the middle of their blazing fast sparring, he'd missed his brother completely. Without sound, he took off his heavy helmet and shut down his sizzling lightning sword, jostling his wings to land one step away from his twin. Swiftly standing back upright after avoiding his brother's blow, his loose gold armor jangling like old chains, Ithacor attempted to hide the cavalcade of chuckles he felt bubbling up from his stomachs. So I'm the moron chicken king, huh? Yea, and verily, you couldn't hit a tree if you were close enough to eat its bark. How did you? Ithacor rolled his still glistening eyes. They kept saying we're the same age, but the creation cocoons really must have favored me and spit me out first, along with a full supply of brains. And you got, well, I don't know exactly what it is you've got besides being formed in the left cocoon with a face that looks like day-old pizza. Silla. You shouldn't have been able to avoid that strike, Cora. And yet, here we are. As much as I enjoy speaking formally, even when those snobbish seraphim aren't around, you do realize that you also parried my question, right? Your brain power is uncanny. A question I will now repeat. Where's our training? Well, we're here, Dor, and the lightning swords are flying and missing. Score another Der prize for Mr. Second Sight. Yeah, thanks a bushel for bringing that up. Yeah, well, I've got third sight. Ithador raised one eyebrow. So you're accepting it now, and that's what you're calling it? Not in front of polite company, Captain Death Siren, as opposed to, the walking meteor expose known as my twin. I know you understand none of that. So what that is in the first book, we meet a set of twins named Ithador and Ithacor, and they are junior gladiator angels, okay? And they're in training, and so they got kind of adopted by one of the archangels, okay? So in the book, in the story world, they're called archwisdors. There's Michael, there's Gabriel, there's Uriel, and there's Raphael. Michael's in charge of the gladiators. Gabriel's in charge of the messengers. Uriel doesn't have a group that follows him, which is why he recruited these two. And Raphael is in charge of the healing. He's in charge of the tree of life, the leaves of the tree. Okay? And so what they're doing, because I can't say too much because I'll spoil it, what they're doing is they're training, but they're in a very specific place in the armory, and a whole bunch of specific things happen. Okay, so let me read a little bit more. I know I had to give you that background because I know that wouldn't make any sense to you. Okay, All right. No, we're not going to read that. I got to read something that makes sense to you. Okay. Okay. They huddled and grit their teeth. Sweat and bruises accumulated quickly. Jezrim felt like his stomach was crawling up to his mouth. Too many, too close. After seemingly an interminable lapse of time, the circular containers of death seemed to stop coming, the way a sudden thunderstorm seems to change its mind after venting its rage. With a buzzing sound, a distinct voice emerged from the immensity of space. Michael, this is Gabriel. Michael, this is Gabriel. Do you copy? Over. Ignoring his brother's voice, Michael slowly lifted his eyes above the folded shield of his emerald wings. The last of the spheres seemed to be scurrying past them 3 meters above their heads. His singed wings slowly flaked off one by one. Michael waited another beat and finally exhaled a command. Squadron at ease, said the muscular chief gladiator. What happened, sir? One of his troops asked, still staring at the copper assailants. The warrior in Michael wanted to count this narrow avoidance of fatal pummeling as a win, just like that same eternal warrior voice was trying to do with the events of the last week. But the soldier in Michael knew better. Lucifer had literally been in the details, and it was his preoccupation with his other problem that caused him to do a less than thorough job on Proxima a few days ago. That lack of thoroughness was now costing them. The chief gladiator then reached a sharp conclusion about a suddenly very deadly reality for him and his troops. We're going to have to do another weapon sweep, gladiators. Michael tried his best to keep the subtle hint of a disappointed sigh out of his tone. Another sweep of Proxima means that my issue back home is going to become temporarily a secondary issue, and it definitely is not secondary. Michael inhaled. That so called asteroid field was nothing of the kind. Those were actually remnants of copper warp spheres encrusted with dirt. Lucifer left them blanketing the area, operating on some kind of magnetic charge. He also programmed the intact ones we just avoided with a type of proximity trigger, so that anyone that dared to brave the swarming shrapnel would be assaulted by fully functional spheres. And all of that, said Michael, would be exacerbated by the random flares that Proxima Centauri, as a red dwarf star, is known to have, triggered by the increased magnetic activity. What just happened? What happened was Michael was doing his sweep in space, trying to find all the potential weapons that Lucifer left behind, and he ran into a booby trap. So even though Lucifer was incarcerated, even though Michael thought he had defeated him, Lucifer had set some booby traps to stop Michael from finding the rest of his weapons. So what I just read there was a little passage where Michael took some of his troops to try to find those weapons. So I know you have to read these things in context. So I would have to read like a long time to give you the total context of the chapter. But I'm just giving you little excerpts for those of you that's the first time you've heard anything about what I wrote or whatever. You see, I tend to write a lot of different kind of stuff. I tend to write a lot of different kind of information. I tend to write a lot of stuff where you need to understand everything that's going on in the context to understand from it. So I read a little passage from you, and we see the twins from the first book, Ithador and Ithacor. They were supposed to be training, and they were frustrated because it didn't look like, it didn't look like their training was happening. And then I read a little passage from Michael and his gladiators are in outer space in another galaxy trying to hunt down any possible weapons and sleeper weapons that Lucifer may have set up before Michael incarcerated him. Okay? But there's more to it. So that's why, I'm just reading just a little bit to let you see actually what's going on here. You got to read the whole thing in context. And I would have to read the whole chapter. And that's not my goal here today, to read the whole chapter. I would have to read the whole chapter to make you understand that. Okay, but I'm trying to give you the short, quick explanation. So that's actually what's going on in the book. And there's a lot more stuff in this book that is the payoff payoff from the first book. Okay, so now I'm going to deal with how I wrote it. And there's a couple of things I have to deal with there. Okay. Now, people have asked me, why did it take me so long? Why did it take you so long to get around to this thing? And remember, this is an interlude. We're going to talk about the second novel in a minute. But a lot of people ask me, why did it take you so long to get around to this? And the answer to that question is twofold. Okay. I'm going to show you the first answer. Now, I don't think I can show this on Instagram. So you're going to have to hop on one of the other channels if you want to see this, because I'm going to show you exactly what I've been doing all this time. Okay. So let me pull this up. What I've been doing all this time, and those of you watching me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, you can see it now. Those of you on Instagram, I'm just going to have to explain it to you. I created an entire story world. I didn't just write a novel. I created an entire story world. So I have the first novel, which is an international bestseller, one of the top 10 sellers on Amazon. I have the interlude that I'm dropping today. I also have 3 coloring books. I got one book called Animals of the Realm. I got another book called Secret Beasts of the Realm. And then I got a second book, Secret Beasts of the Realm Part 2. Everything in those coloring books is in the story. So there are no details lost. Then I have a tabletop RPG. I have a role-playing game. So those of you on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, you can see it there on the screen. If you click on the beta version on my website, you can actually download the beta version for free. So you can play the tabletop RPG for yourself. If you want the advanced version, then you have to order that. You have to email me that and order that. So this is what I've been doing for all this time. I've been working on getting the novels done, as well as creating and promoting the other parts of the series. Okay. And so that's one of the reasons it's taken me so long. Another reason it's taken me so long is because I have everything plotted out. So the way I have this set up, I've already finished everything, and now it's a matter of getting the story together, getting it edited, getting all that different kind of stuff happening. Okay. But I've already got it plotted out. And so that took a long time, because some of the stuff that's going to happen in this book, you won't believe. You won't believe some of the stuff that's coming up in these books. You won't believe it. So again, like I said, anything I tell you is going to be a spoiler, but you won't believe it. It's truly a story with a lot of twists and turns, with a lot of unexpected stuff, but a lot of stuff where you didn't see that coming. Okay. All right. And then I also have dropped the first comic book, which is called The Nephilim Wars. Nephilim Wars. And the Nephilim Wars is set in the future, but it's a part of this same story. And here I'm pulling it up on my other channels. There it is, Nephilim Wars. It's on Amazon Kindle right now, and you can get a digital copy. It's set up, it happens in the future, but it's based on the same story that's happening in the novels. So those of you that make comic books, and those of you that have ever created a comic book, you know how resource intensive comic books are. They're resource intensive, time, energy, money. So I have that out, and I'm working on getting that series finished too. So this is all the stuff I've been doing since the first novel came out. On top of all that, another reason it took me so long was because I read all my comments. I take all my feedback seriously. And so I was going through the feedback. I was trying to look at the stuff that people thought I did well. And I was trying to look at the stuff that people thought I didn't do so well. And I was trying to adjust that for the subsequent stuff. Now, let me speak a word of encouragement to you authors. Don't listen to people that are being negative just for the sake of being negative, especially when they use these broad, sweeping generalizations, that kind of thing, but don't give you anything that they're pointing at, because they can't tell the difference between this book is objectively bad and it just wasn't my cup of tea. You understand? Because there's a difference between something being objectively bad and just wasn't what I liked, just wasn't what I wanted. And so that's what I mean when I say you have to learn how to filter through your criticism and figure out what is legit and what can actually help you get better, and what is not. What is somebody just being negative just for the sake of it? Okay. All right. So that's the why. Why it took me so long to come out with this stuff, but I got everything finished. Now I'm just trying to get it through editing. I'm trying to get it into production so I can get it in your hands. Okay. And finally, not finally, but the third thing I want to talk about is why. Because people ask me this all the time. They say, why would you write a book like this? Why would you write a book entitled Lucifer, Soldier, Serpents, and Sin? Why would you write an interlude? Why would you broach the subject? Why would you write a series like that? People ask me that all the time. Okay. There's more than one answer. The philosophical answer is because we already have enough things, and when I say we, I mean us humans. We already have enough things that divide us. And it seems like we specialize in dealing with things that just divide us. So I started thinking about, what things do we all have in common? What things unite us? What things do human beings across all walks of life, regardless of age, regardless of type of faith, regardless of gender, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of education, what kind of things do human beings deal with on a universal basis? And so on the positive tip, it's a desire for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's a desire to enjoy your life, feed your family, be safe, be educated as you want to be, that kind of thing. But on the more stress side, it's always this question right here. If God is so good, why is there so much evil in the world? Lord have mercy. I just had a big Twitter conversation with somebody like that a couple of weeks ago. And they were talking about how, there's no excuse, and I don't believe in God, and it can't be good because, babies are being raped, and there's kidnapping, and there's all these gun incidents, active shooters, and all this. And I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson, I watched a video of him saying that by his observation, he says, God is purported to be good and all powerful, but when he looks at life, he said that God can't be both. Life can't have all the things in it that it has, and they always mention babies. How can you purport for there to be a good God with that kind of stuff happening? And how can you even suggest that he would have all power with that kind of stuff happening? That's a universal question that all people struggle with, which is the origin of evil. Why? Why is there evil? Why? And why does it affect humans? How did it get to Earth? Why is it here? Why does it exist? How can you reconcile any type of faith-based belief of an all-loving God and an all-powerful God when you look at the heinousness and the crimes and the tragedy and the sheer pain and grief that's in the world? Because if you are a human being, you have at one time or another in your life stood over the body of something dead and said, "Why, God, why?" You may have buried your parents. You may have been the only survivor of an accident, but your friends died. You may have friends that committed suicide and took themselves out early. You may have even like your dog, even if you had a family pet, because you're going to outlive that pet in most likelihood. And so most people want to know why. Why has this happened? Why is there so much pain in this life? Why? Okay. That's the philosophical reason I broached this subject. That's the reason that I wrote this kind of series. Okay. Because we need answers to that question, and you need answers. How can I say this? Outside of a religious context. Okay. When it's in a religious context, that tends to only affect people that are of that faith or whatever, but the experience is universal. The experience of struggling with the existence of evil and understanding where it comes from and why it's here. The experience of standing over the body of something dead and processing that grief is something everybody goes through. That's why I wrote this series, because before this series is all over, we're going to get some answers to those questions. Where did evil come from? Why does it exist? Why is it here on earth? That kind of stuff, because that's the stuff we all struggle with. And how can you purport the idea of a sovereign God and a good God, and yet there's this kind of stuff happening? How can you reconcile those concepts? Those are deep philosophical questions and issues that every single human being has wrestled with. I don't care who you are. The first time you encountered any kind of racism, the first time you ever met somebody that didn't like you because of how you looked. Now, you didn't do anything to them. They just don't like who you are as a person. They just don't like your ethnic group. There's something about you they don't like. And they persecuted you and they hated you. And you kept saying to yourself, but I didn't do anything. But I didn't do anything. I stopped by to tell you, you were right. Think back to your first bullying experience in school. Okay, unless you were a bully. If you were ever bullied in school, there's someone that just took this massive dislike to you. This massive dislike. And when you were a child, you keep saying to yourself, what did I do? I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. Okay. And yet, the first time you encounter that, you feel that hatred, you feel that contempt. You feel, why? Why? See, everybody want to know why. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what language is your primary language. I don't care what continent you were born on. I don't care what kind of food you eat. I don't care what your faith beliefs are. I don't care about your demographics in what I'm talking about here, because the experience, again, is universal. And people want to know. People want to know. They want to know, why is it here? How do I deal? All that. Okay, before my series is over, we're going to get some answers to those questions. That's the philosophical reason I broached this subject and wrote this kind of a book. Okay? So that's part one. Here's the next part of why. I caught an image, and that image fascinated me. And then there were a whole bunch of questions that formed around that image. The image that I caught in my head was, I was like, wait a minute. What would happen the first time the devil looked in a pond or a reflective surface and saw himself? Because before, he was this bright, the name Lucifer means light bearer. He was this bright, shining angel that had a place in the heavenly realm, that led the worship and did the music and all this different kind of stuff. What would happen if you get kicked out, and at one point you are so popular and you are so wise and you're so rich and everybody loves you, until it goes to your head, and then you get kicked out. And then on the way to be, or in the process of being kicked out, you look at yourself and you turn into this twisted, ugly, gnarly, clawed, snarling, despicable, dragon-like thing that could never produce anything good again. What would that do to you? And the reason I pondered that is so I could avoid it. So let me take that out of the abstract and bring it into the concrete. What if you are the most popular kid in school? What if you're the popular kids? What if you're the coolest of the cool kids? What if everybody follows you and everybody loves you? And then you do something that gets you ejected from your status. And all of a sudden, you are no longer the cool kid, the popular kid, the one that everybody wants, the one that everybody is trying to be like, the one who had a clique that everybody is trying to be in. What if that happened? And all of a sudden, you're not that person anymore. What would that do to you? And you know why I wondered about stuff like that? So I could avoid it. I'm like, because I'm fascinated with the idea of how could you be an angel in heaven and rebel? How could you have glory and light and truth and honor and privilege and whatever else it is that celestial bodies enjoy, and somehow decide that you were going to go against the one that gave you all that? Who could talk you into something like that? Who could make you believe that it would be a better bet to go against your boss, the creator, and follow someone who said they were, oh, there's my sister, hey, sis, and said that they were going to try to put you under new management, that they had better ideas, that they were going to give you a better life than the one you already had. That entire concept fascinates me. It just absolutely intrigues me. How can you be a celestial being? How can you have all that glory and light and food? Because there's a lot of food in the glory. How could you have all that and somebody talk you out of it? Somebody talk you out of it. Somebody tell you that all this, what you already have, this ain't right, and this ain't good enough, and this isn't fair, because that's what people love to say, it's not fair. And somebody talk you out of all of that into following them. That whole concept absolutely fascinates me. And you see it on earth all the time, don't you? Don't you see people that look like, or at least from your point of view, have everything, whatever that means? I hate that phrase, have it all, because it's so relative. I don't even know what that means. What do you mean, have it all? What does that mean? Does that mean the same thing to somebody on the East Coast that it does in the South? Does that mean the same thing to somebody in Canada that it does in Mexico? So that phrase, have it all, just gets on my nerves because it's so abstract and it's so relative. There's nothing concrete about it. But anyway, you see all the time people that from your outside point of view looking in, it looks like they have so much, and then yet look like they throw it away. And then yet somehow they say it wasn't enough. And then yet somehow, no matter how blessed they might be and how blessed you might perceive them to be, they say, well, who's talking about us out of our position with God? Lucifer. That's what the book's about. My sister asked the question, who's talking us out of our position with God? Lucifer, and when other people believe his philosophies. So that's what I mean when I say I'm fascinated by that concept, because I want to avoid it. Because in both scenarios, in both the heavenly realm and the earthly realm, it has been proven that you could be chock full of blessings and good things in your life, and something in you says, That ain't enough. Something in you says, well, it ain't supposed to go like this. It ain't supposed to be like that. Something in you says, ought to be more, ought to be something different than this. That entire concept just completely fascinates me. And it exists in a glory realm, it exists in a celestial realm with heavenly beings, and it exists down here on earth with us. Why? Why? Why is there such a thing? How? How? How do you get there? Because again, I want to know all that so I can avoid it. Because it doesn't make any sense. And we do it all the time. So my image was the image that made me start writing was what would happen the first time Lucifer saw his face in a pond or a river or a body of water. And he saw what he had become after what he'd done. Because we do the same thing. Haven't you ever looked in the mirror after you made a mistake and you said, what was I thinking? You said, why did I do that? And you found yourself someplace you never thought you'd be because of a choice you made. See, that fascinates me. That absolutely fascinates me. And that's the image that I got that sparked me to write this book. Because this series started as a short story. It was just a short story. And I started writing. And I looked at it again. And I started writing. And I looked at it some more. And by the time I got through writing, it turned into a novel. And then by the time I kept writing, I realized I needed to make 3 or 4 novels to try to say all that I was trying to say based on that. You see that? That's why I would broach such a subject philosophically and in terms of the imagery that I imagine. Because remember how I told you we all have common experiences as humans? Why do we throw away paradise? How many people have you seen with a perfectly good relationship? And I mean a perfectly good relationship. And I mean other people would give their left arm to be married to somebody like who they were married to, or be blessed in a situation like they're blessed. And their response at some point is to throw all that away. Why? Why is there this tendency in beings both terrestrial and celestial to throw paradise away? Why? See, all of that goes into the writing of the series because all that stuff just fascinates me. Now, in terms of genre, this book would be labeled a fantasy book. It's also a war book because there's a lot of war, there's a lot of fighting that goes on in this book. So for those of you that are looking for exactly the genre classification, this wouldn't really be science fiction as it's not really based on Newtonian physics. It's based on earth physics and heavenly physics. And it's not really based on the technology that people have created or might create. It's not necessarily a science fiction environment. It's more, it would be classified as epic fantasy or novel fantasy, that kind of thing, if you're looking for the genre that the book fits in. But it has so many different elements. The friendship between Michael and Lucifer before he falls is key. Like I said, there's a lot of war, there's a lot of weapons. And then the thing that I found the most fun is actually developing the story world, because there's so much that happens in the story world. There's so many things going on in the story world all the time, because I imagined what would that look like? What would the data stream look like? What would the riches, what would the money look like? What would a workday look like? All that's in the book. See that? So I'm trying to give you the why I wrote it, why I got into it. Like I said, why it took me so long, because I was, going wide in terms of creating all the different kind of content. And so before this series is over, like I said, there will be some answers to these types of questions. So that's why I want you to hang in there until I get through. There's going to be at least 3 novels, but right now I'm pushing up on 4. When I wrote the ending, when I mapped it all out, by the time I got through, I found out I had to split it into 2 because it was too long. Okay, because I'm trying to keep the novels at a certain length to keep them readable. Because again, I know my writing style is already very, very complex, very, very wordy, very, very descriptive, very, very much. I like to put you in the center of what's going on, but it takes a lot of words to do that. So I know that. I know, and I know that the critics of my writing style don't like that, but that's the way I write. So the people that do like it enjoy it very much. So that's what I mean when I say, you know, you got to kind of pick your battles or whatever. So this is going to be at least 4 novels, and I'm doing a Nephilim Wars comic book series, and I got some more stuff coming on as well. So I want you to hang in there until we reach the conclusion, because it's very, very detailed. It's very, very detailed. It's very, very detailed. And you're going to have to pay attention to all the details along the way for it to make sense to you. Okay? So again, this is the book that's available now. Lucifer Too Many Wings is the interlude from the first novel. This is available now for download on Amazon. And you can also get a physical copy. You can get a print copy now. Now, when I start going out to cons and conventions, I'm going to bring them with me. So remember, whenever you meet an author in person, always request for me to sign it. Because anytime you buy a book, if you get the author's signature, that book is worth more. It'll be worth more the moment the author puts their signature on it than it was for what you paid for it. So if you see me in person, if you have a book you bought from me, bring it and I'll sign it if I did the first time. And if you buy a book from me at a convention, always ask me to sign it, because I want to do that for you, because it makes a book worth more. Okay? All right. And the last thing I'm going to do today, I can't show y'all on Instagram. I'm so sorry I can't. I was like, wait a minute. Can I flip my screen? I think I can flip my screen. Hold on. Let me see if I can make this work. Yes. Okay. Here we go. Okay. All right. Let me get this set up. What I'm going to show you now is a very brief cover reveal for the next novel. I'm going to show you a very brief cover reveal for the next novel. Okay. All right, here we go. On Instagram, and it's already on Facebook and Twitter. Next novel is called Lucifer, Soldier, Serpents, and Sin, Book 2, Provoke the Past. Okay. This is the cover of the next book. So excited about it. So excited about it. I'm so excited about it. So that's going to be out before the year is out. Before this year is over, I'm going to drop that second novel. And the second novel is going to include the events that happened in the first novel and this interlude book. Okay? And so you have to read this stuff in sequence, and you have to read all of it, or else it's not going to make any sense to you. I know some people write their story series as standalones, but this particular series of mine is not written as a standalone. This is written as a series in sequence. So you have to read it in sequence for it to make sense to you. Because I give you, again, it's just my writing style. What I give you is this extremely panoramic view. I give you an extremely panoramic view of everything that's going on in the story world. So you're going to really have to dive in and digest. All right? All right. Well, that's it for my 10 o'clock broadcast. I'm coming back on at 2 o'clock to do this again for everybody that couldn't join me live this first time. But I wanted to let you know what was going on, what this is. Wanted to let you know how I wrote it, why it took me so long. Wanted to let you know why I wrote it, why I even broached the subject. Now, if you want to get it today, it's available on Amazon. Okay, so you go to Amazon, you look up Lucifer, Soldier, Serpents, and Sin. You can get the first novel, and you can get this interlude, this follow-up. Okay, you can get both today. You can digitally download them. You can get the print copies, and then the first book actually has an audio book as well. Okay, so both are available on Amazon right now. So is Nephilim Wars, the first comic book in the series. That's available for digital download. The coloring books are available on Amazon. If you want to get the RPG, the tabletop role-playing game, you have to write me for that to get the advanced version. You can download the beta version for free, but if you want that red box version, I'll show you. You got to write me for that. All right. All right. So that's it for this one. I will be back on at 2 o'clock to do this again for everybody that couldn't join me live. But I'm just so excited about everything that's going on in the series. I just so excited. I can't wait to work through all these issues and answer all these questions and show you how the story turns out, because I guarantee you it's not going to turn out the way you think. I guarantee you there's going to be so many twists and turns. There are going to be so many things that happen before the series is finished. You're not going to be able to anticipate where I'm going, I guarantee you. Okay? So pick those up today, read them, and the last thing I want to say is please leave me a review. The best thing you could do to help an author out, besides obviously purchasing their content, is leave them a review. So please leave me a review on Amazon. Everything about that is better for the books, better for, Amazon positioning. Everything is about that. So if you do read these books, please leave me a review. Now, obviously, I want a positive and glowing review, but I'll take an honest one because I can't grow as an author unless I hear some honest feedback. Now, all that negative stuff, that stuff that just exists just to bash, I ain't paying no attention to you, so don't waste your time. But those of you that get the book, please leave me a review on Amazon. That, besides buying the book itself, that's the best way to help me out. All right, y'all, that's it. I'll be back at 2 o'clock for another round of this, because I know some more people want to see me talk about it live. And then it's all available now. And I'm going to be doing a lot more press, a lot more interviews, a lot more everything now that the book is out. And then we're going to gear up for that second novel. That's dropping this year too. Can't wait. All right. Thanks everybody that joined me live. And I will see you next time.